Good morning, everyone. It is Friday, quite literally 5:50 a.m. for me right now because there's some really good news going on in the world as far as esports, collegiate esports goes. LICC is going on. There's also NACE going on. We're going to get to NACE later, the NACE convention. Going to get that later because my guest later on is Michael Jones. But he's of Drury College, Drury University, I should say. He's the coach over there. He's also former coach of Culver Stockton. But he went and attended the convention. We get into that. But news first. That is going to come second. News first, though. The LICC is going on, League of Legends International College Cup. That is going over in Hong Kong. North America has one team being represented by Maryville University. There's teams from all around the world attending as well. This is, like I said, I waited till 5 a.m., 5:50 a.m., whatever you want to call it, because I wanted to give the latest update possible. Happy to report Maryville University, after about 2 days of competition, 2 or 3 days, don't remember which, but they have made it out of group stages. And it was looking very scary because, paraphrasing the Maryville University esports, with their back against the wall, they were able to come out swinging and took down the number one seed, Portugal. So congratulations to Maryville University. Not to mention, that was Portugal's first loss in the entire tournament. And that was by Maryville. So, again, congratulations. They're out of group stages. Hopefully, it's going to be a good championship run. Really love to see them in the finals. And, of course, I'll be keeping you updated. Be keeping up on Twitter. You can also go look at an English broadcast. There's an English broadcast going on over at twitch.tv Big League _NA. I'll put that in the description below. They're doing hosting, streaming, broadcasting, whatever you want to call it, a North American broadcast, an English broadcast. I guess I shouldn't call it North American broadcast because there's more people speak English than North Americans. But know what I mean. They're hosting an English broadcast so we can keep up in real time. It's happening over in Hong Kong. So if you want to watch it live, just do it at about 1 a.m. It's kind of a chore, but if you want to be there, support Maryville University, you can do it. So thank you very much. Big League _NA. I don't think that's their actual name, but that is their Twitter handle. And again, I'll put their Twitter handle in the description below as well, along with the website. I think I did this last week. The website for all the teams competing in the International College Cup. So once again, it's going to be last time. Congratulations, Maryville University. Be watching you. But again, my guest is Michael Jones of Drury University. That's out in Springfield. And fun fact, I was actually born in Springfield, Missouri. That's where the college is. That's where Michael Jones is coaching at right now. So I actually invited him because of that commonality. I wanted to talk about that because I'm going to talk about my hometown, like my birth country. It's not a country. It is a country. It's still United States, but I don't get to talk about my actual birth city that much. So I wanted to talk to him a little bit about that. But it just happened to be coincidental because he attended the NACE convention, and that one's actually going to be a pretty big one, or it was a big one. It happened last Friday, 1 week ago today, and it was it's essentially to try to establish a governing body for collegiate esports. I mean, they already kind of are. It's not a total all-in-one governing body. Obviously, there are some teams that don't opt to be in the program, but and he talks about that too, but. It is a rather important entity, I should say, in the collegiate esports scene. So I had Michael Jones on. We talked about that. We also talked about wrestling. We also talked about Star Trek. He's a giant Star Trek fan. I'm a giant Star Trek fan. And we talk about that too, but we do talk a lot about the collegiate esport scene right now and the NACE convention. So without further ado, I guess I'll go ahead and get you into that one. Once again, Michael Jones, thank you very much for being on. If you're listening, I hope you are, and enjoy the conversation.
So I'm restarting the recording. You sound fine. So yeah.
Okay, cool.
We'll just go with this one. So I've been really busy tonight because I've taken a huge interest to Dota Underlords, and it's only been out for about 4 weeks. So I'm actually gonna try to do content early, and I've been recording a giant. They just came out with a giant patch, and I've been recording going line by line patch note analysis. It's the first time I've actually really gotten into this sort of analysis sort of thing for a game. I did it for League of Legends, obviously, but I never actually got into the analysis of patches line by line and creating content for it. It was always just news articles, what's going on in the community, and of course broadcasting. But I'm not broadcasting with this one. I'm actually doing content creation. I've been inspired by doing the podcast. I've actually been keeping up with that. I was like, I could keep up with something else because I'm a slight workaholic whenever I get going. And now I have a pressure on me to do more. And
yeah, man, you got to get it out. It's the new hot thing.
Oh God, I know.
Well, that's exciting. I'll have to check your content out because, to be honest, I have not gone down the rabbit hole yet. I have not dove into the auto battler sensation that is sweeping the nation. I just haven't had the time.
This is the first one I've gotten into. Obviously, like, I'm not going to get into the League of Legends ones. I don't do anything with Riot anymore. But I've been curious about Dota Auto Chess, and then Underlords came out. I've been hearing so many good things about it. And some of my friends play it, and I was like, I might as well check it out. And oh my God, it's on mobile. So
ooh, okay.
Yeah, I'm at work on my break playing it. I'm in my Uber playing it.
In that case, I might have to give it a try then.
It's kind of ridiculous, yeah.
My biggest issue right now as a coach is like, I don't play video games anymore. I watch people play video games. So
yeah.
But if it's on the phone, I'll have to give it a try. I'm gonna use that today.
I've heard that's an issue with coaching and just being in the back part of the staff is that you don't really get to enjoy games anymore. It's a job.
Yeah, basically. I play a little bit of ARAM with my friends because all my buddies still play League of Legends.
Yeah.
And, we play D&D once a week, but that's about all I get anymore. So.
That's fair. Yeah. I try to. I'm pretty much out of I feel like I'm out of esports. Like I'm happy with my IRL. No, I won't say IRL. My outside esports job. I'm happy with it. And I don't feel like I absolutely need esports anymore, but I still want to pursue it as a hobby because if I don't, I feel like I would have just wasted years of my life, and I don't want to do that. And I love keeping up with the community. Obviously, I've met so many people, and I just don't want to I don't know, it's cool.
There's no reason to give that up.
Yeah, it's cool talking to you guys. So
what about Rainbow Six though? I thought you were getting into that.
I love Rainbow Six. I actually still love playing it until I found Dota Underlords.
Right.
I don't.
Are you shoutcasting in Rainbow Six?
I was for a split second, and it's just one of those scheduling things. That's kind of why I want to take a step back from broadcasting in general, because content creation I could just do on my own. But for Rainbow Six, there's already so many content creators that are so entertaining, and I'm not breaking anything new. I'm not breaking any new ground. I'm not analyzing as well in Rainbow Six because I suck at Rainbow. I'm going to be honest. I suck at Rainbow Six. I just don't have the reaction time. Like, I might be able to do something relevant with it, but man, Rainbow Six is years and years old, and there's been times gone by that I haven't been able to experience. And I do love the Rainbow Six community. I love Ubisoft as a company, and I do like the content creators. I love playing the game too, but I think that's all it's going to be to me. I tried shoutcasting it for a bit, and I did enjoy it. I really enjoyed shoutcasting it, but
Did you see the Twitch rivals they did recently? I think it was Lil Yachty and maybe T-Pain, I think. Were the captains of two teams. It was amazing. It was incredible. Lil Yachty was on stage. He was the only guy playing with a controller. It was amazing.
Oh, bless him.
Go look up some clips. It was incredible.
I will. I do enjoy me some T-Pain playing games because I like the fact that he does play just video games. I like that T-Pain is mostly a normal dude who discovered the magic of auto-tuning, which I know he didn't discover it, but he marketed it, and it's
right.
I really enjoy T-Pain for everything that he is, because he seems like he's just a nice dude. He
gets a bad rap because people look at auto-tune, and really there's a misconception there. I studied auto engineering a little bit, and there's Melodyne, which is what a lot of the pop stars use to be perfectly on pitch. And then auto-tune is just you turn a knob up and he uses it for an effect. And so he gets a bad rap, I think, sometimes, where people just think, oh, it's a silly gimmick or something. But no, he uses it as an instrument. I love it. So.
Well, regardless if it is a gimmick, that was like I said, I know auto-tune was about before him, but whatever he does, he did sort of gimmick it, but he was the first one to do it. And when you're the first one to do it, actually market it that way, it can be yours. That's fine.
Oh yeah, of course.
I don't want to hear T-Pain's real voice anymore. He is auto-tuned. That's fine.
Exactly.
That's fine to me. Yep. So you went to NACE. You've had a rough travel.
Correct.
Tell me about your travels today. That should be on there because you've had a long journey,
okay,
and I'm so appreciative that you're here after all that.
Hey, no problem. Yeah, before we dive into kind of the convention and what happened and the good things that came out of it and the fallout, I went from the NACE convention. I'm in South Bend, Indiana right now, or really Elkhart. Um, for those of you in the collegiate high school esports space, that might sound familiar because Elkhart High School out here has an amazing program. They're putting on a tournament, a big LAN called Gamehead Fest. And so me and a bunch of other coaches are here this weekend checking that out. I think we're speaking on a panel tomorrow. Going to talk to some recruits, talk to them about my new program at Drury University. So yeah, I'm here doing that, but I made the mistake of not booking so much of this ahead in advance because plans were kind of still up in the air until the last minute, and I figured, of course, there's going to be a room in South Bend, Indiana somewhere, right? Well, I was wrong because I
What are
think
the
the
odds?
UK soccer team is here playing a friendly at Notre Dame or something, and that is just the event to cause every hotel to be booked out. I had a car reserved to pick up at Enterprise, and every car rental place was sold out. So I just plunked down, I think, $50 for an Uber. I had to go to the next town over to find a hotel, but I have reached the promised land because the hotel I found literally just opened today, like 6 hours ago, and I'm the
That
first person to stay in this room.
that's well, I mean, so I said nice earlier whenever you told me that because that means that it's actually probably really clean. And
Yeah, it smells amazing. It's got
that's
that new hotel room smell.
something I've never experienced. Yeah, Vegas hotels, they try to stay clean and they mostly are, but I'm afraid to run a little like one of those like UV lights or those blue lamps under it. What are you?
Oh yeah, in Vegas in particular, I mentioned that. Anyway, but
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
it's been a long day. It's been a long day, but I'm happy to be
I'm
here and
really
chatting with
glad you're
you.
here.
And yeah, thank you. This has been a long time coming. I've been an admirer of your work, and we've been chatting
Aw.
back and forth on Twitter forever. So
Well, we
I'm
also
glad to
talked
finally
at
do this.
Hugh Fest last year too. We actually talked in person.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. That's
You,
right. I
yeah,
know we
don't forget.
did.
I never did forget. Please don't forget about me.
It's not that I forgot about you. It's just that.
There was a lot going on.
Um, yeah, it was more kind of like quick business. How are you doing? How's the event
Yeah.
going? Kind of thing. So we didn't get to talk, you know, about life and everything. And
Yeah.
that's what I like about your podcast, and you in particular. You have just a very interesting, varied set of interests. Big WWE fan. That's intriguing to me. What
Yeah.
if I could ask you a quick question? What about that is still intriguing to you? Because I was a huge wrestling fan when I was a kid back in the Stone Cold Steve Austin days. He was my hero. But then for me, HDTV kind of ruined it. But I mean, what about that is appealing to you?
Oh, it's storytelling. Okay, so there's stories that go on for years. You will never find a story, maybe a soap opera, which I mean, obviously wrestling is a soap opera. There's a video by I'm not going to say the guy's name cuz I don't want his name on my podcast cuz he's kind of he's a scumbag. But there is a video about wrestling and being about everything besides wrestling. And there are 30 years of story in wrestling that just keeps going. Triple H, Undertaker, even Hulk Hogan, for all his faults, still has a story that is going. There are so many things in storytelling that I absolutely love that are in wrestling, and not all of it is great. Some of it is absolute just trash, but those are still stories because a story, with humans, not everyone's background and story is going to be stellar. I don't care about a lot of people's story, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that about you. I'm just like people on my podcast. I want to know their story. I want to know things.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, you're in Springfield, Missouri. That's my hometown. That's my birthplace. We're gonna get to that, which is one of the reasons why I wanted you on here because I wanted to talk about that. But obviously, you went to NACE, and that's intriguing as well. But wrestling, man, there's so much passion into wrestling. Oh my God, I'll be honest. So I can say this because it's legal here. I really wish I were smoking right now because, man, when I start smoking, I get to rambling about some things I'm really passionate about. And I feel sorry for some of my friends because they've endured me rambling for over 30 minutes of just about wrestling, about an intro song, like because every intro song tells a story too. For that particular wrestler or particular faction. And that's a good thing too, is that like everything is integrated. There is so much character development in wrestling that it's memorable. Like, I mean, of course, like it's the passion that they exude. It's the things that, like, I don't know if you know this about me, and I've talked about it once or twice before, but I actually trained for professional wrestling one time when I was
Really?
Yeah, when I was
What?
in Cincinnati at Bone Crushers, because the match that really got me, and you probably watched this because you were watching at that time, was a 1998 King of the Ring there was a Hell in a Cell between Undertaker and Mankind, and Mick Foley. Yeah, oh my God. An absolutely horrifying match because Mick Foley almost died, quite literally. But what really got me, and I was a kid when I watched this, and it stuck with me, and it still sticks with me, and it's one of the things that actually drives me, and I use it as inspiration, is that Mick Foley, obviously wrestling, it's predetermined, and I'm never going to call it fake because it is predetermined, because what happened in that match almost killed Mick Foley twice. Him falling through this, obviously fell off the cell into the table, and that was dangerous in itself, but that was a planned spot, predetermined. But regardless, that fall is going to hurt.
Yeah.
It's just physics. Now, he got up, and it was planned to continue the match, so he did. And as a kid, I was like, wow. Now he got on top of the cell again with The Undertaker, and he got choke slammed through the cell. That was not planned. That cell gave way, and it was supposed to hold him. Since then, the cell has been reinforced to where people can take slams on the top of the cell. It's still dangerous.
Wow.
It's still dangerous, but Mick Foley was not supposed to go through that cell. What also was not supposed to happen, because at the first time Mick Foley went up on that cell, he threw a steel chair on top of the cell. And when he went through the cell, again, wasn't supposed to happen. What also wasn't supposed to happen was that chair fell on top of his face and knocked his knocked his tooth out and up into his nose, and he was knocked unconscious. So what happened, instead of calling the match right there, which they would do nowadays, which is they should have. They should have ended that match right there, but they didn't. And it inspired a young, 12-year-old Joshua Quest. And
that's amazing.
What they did was they stalled for time. Mick Foley has a very good friend in the industry named Terry Funk, and he came down to the ring to check on his friend because his friend almost freaking died. So Mick Foley was knocked unconscious, but the show went on, and to buy Mick Foley time to regain consciousness, to regain composure, Terry Funk went up to Undertaker and started fighting him. That was fake. I mean, I won't say fake, but it was, that was planned.
Right.
Improvised, I should say. That was improvised.
Yeah.
And they bought Mick Foley about maybe 2 minutes of time, because that's kind of what it is. And then Undertaker started scaring away everybody because he wanted this is a personal feud. He wanted at Mick Foley, and he didn't care if he fell through the cell and almost killed himself. The Undertaker's a dead man. He's gonna send him back to hell anyways.
Yeah.
So, man, that match should have stopped, and Mick Foley kept going. And he did not have to. He could have easily said, no, I'm done here. But he didn't. And it's that sort of thing. I use that as inspiration almost every day of my life, just to keep going. I could quit at any moment, but you know what? Mick Foley almost died. He got a chair thrown on his face from the top of a cell, through the cell when he wasn't expecting it. He could have quit, but instead he actually played up that gimmick, because he also bit his lip on the way down and put a hole into it. And instead of not showing that, when the camera was in his face, he stuck his tongue through that hole, which made it look like he was smiling.
Oh God. Oh man.
Yeah.
That is incredible though. I watched wrestling from a very young age, young enough that I didn't at the time realize that it was, like you said, not fake, but staged, predetermined. Right. And then so I think when I finally I was the kid, everyone would say, "Oh, wrestling's fake," and I went, "No, it's not," because I actually thought it was real. And then when I found out that it wasn't, I felt kind of betrayed for a moment. But then I quickly realized, and part of that was because I actually read Mick Foley's autobiography.
Oh, it's so great! I have it.
It's amazing.
Oh my God!
And if you recall, on the back cover, it's like a photo of him with text and lines pointing to every injury he's ever had.
And it's love that.
God,
his body tells a story.
An average person would die if they got hit with his medical records. They're so thick. It's just absurd.
His body alone tells the story of Mick Foley and what he's been through in wrestling. That's amazing. That whole back, just the back cover tells a story. I love that. And one day, I want to tell that story too. I don't know if I want all those concussions and injuries.
Right.
I was willing to put myself through that. Nowadays I'm married and my wife was so happy when I stopped wrestling. She's like, please just stop, because they don't offer insurance. I had no insurance. If I broke my bone, I'm like fucking done. So
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Wrestling is just beautiful to me. Storytelling, the passion that goes into it. I try to translate that into what I do, and right now it's this podcast, and that's what I got. And Mick Foley is an inspiration to me every day. And wrestling,
that's great.
It's because of wrestling that I get to experience that. So that was a nice 5 to 10 minute ramble. So that's kind of what I get with wrestling.
Cool. Well, thank you for answering that. I love
more than happy.
hearing about things people are passionate about, and you've inspired me to give it another look. I'll give it another try and check it, see how things are going.
It's a little bit different nowadays, although
I bet.
Yeah. You remember Goldust?
Yes.
His brother, Cody Rhodes, he's actually starting his own promotion with the backing of the owner of the Jacksonville Jaguars, Tony Khan. And they're going to reignite not the Monday Night Wars, but they're going to reignite the competition that WCW created way back in the day before it was bought out. Because since then, WWE hasn't really had much competition, and the quality, it's different. I won't say it's completely went downhill, but it's different than what it was whenever you were watching back in the heyday of the Attitude Era. Nowadays, it's a little bit different, and I really hope that Cody Rhodes' AEW, All Elite Wrestling, I hope that it ignites something underneath WWE to really get back those like intense storylines and that passion that was there, because there's been blips of like really great stuff throughout the last 19 years or so, but man, it's so hard to recreate what Stone Cold, The Rock, Triple H, Undertaker, all those from our childhood. And I know
The Rock went on to be like the biggest star in the world,
a megastar.
It's absurd.
Yeah, and Batista's following his way, and is actually doing it. Batista's hilarious too. Like
I just saw his new movie, Stuber.
Oh my god,
really
that looks
hilarious.
So fun. Yeah, that looks hilarious.
Yeah, he was great.
I actually want to watch it. I watched what was it, Knockers? Or no, Blockers. No, it was Blockers. Blockers with John Cena. And for
chicken icon Blockers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for just a basic run-of-the-mill movie, that was hilarious. John Cena is so funny, and now he's going that route too. And that's just kind of the progression. I mean, wrestlers are talented. They're great actors.
Yeah.
They do it for a career, and they're funny as hell. So yeah, wrestling. I could go on about wrestling, but we have other stuff to talk about before we get into NACE. Are you from Springfield, Missouri?
So my dad was in the military growing up. So was my mom, actually. She got out when I was born. So I moved around a lot. They actually met in Fort Leonard Wood. Is that hour and a half up the road?
Is that Cape Girardeau?
No, that's like very center of the state.
Oh, okay.
By like Waynesville and Rolla, off I-44.
Okay, yeah.
So they met there long before I was born. My dad gets orders to go to Korea. I think he was planning on asking my mom to marry him at some point anyway, but that kind of expedited the process because he was going to have to go without her. So he proposed. They got married. They went together. They had kind of a tough first year of their marriage because they were still both active duty and they didn't get to live together, so they didn't get to see each other very often. And then they went to Fort Polk, Louisiana after that. That's where I was born. From there, it was New York, Texas. I lived in Germany for 4 years, like kindergarten through third grade. I was there. And then in fourth grade, we moved back to Missouri and back to Fort Leonard Wood where they met. So that was kind of full circle for them. So I've lived in Missouri fourth grade through high school. I went to Missouri State. So that's my connection to Springfield. And I mean, really before that, like through high school, I was in a band and we would go and play in Springfield a lot. Like that was kind of the hub.
Ooh, how old are you? If you don't mind me asking.
20. Yeah, I'm 28.
Okay, so I was in band too when we went to competition. I was in Forsyth High School's band.
Yeah. Oh, nice.
Yeah, with Philip Matney as our teacher, and
cool.
He had a whole wall of like trophies and stuff. But he was super competitive.
I was in band, school band, but what I was saying there is I was in a band. My
Oh
friends
yeah,
and
your
I were
heavy
in like
metal
a metal
band.
band. Yeah, we were in a metal band.
Oh,
And that's my little bit of I guess I can empathize with Mick Foley a little bit. I got hit in the face with a guitar one show and had to get stitches in my lip. So
was that
when you
on
said the thing with
purpose?
him, no, it was a total accident. I went running across the stage and jumped off the bass drum, and
Ooh,
our guitarist was looking the wrong way, and he turned around, swinging his guitar, and hit me in the face.
those are
So yeah, I have the
not.
battle scars to prove it.
Oh man, those are not hollow. Those electric ones.
No,
Oh my
no.
god.
Well, so he just grazed me with the side of it, but he had just put on new strings, and when he cut the remaining like loose end of the string, he didn't do like a clean cut, so there was like a jagged edge of the string, if you will, that like cut me across the face.
Yeah.
So if it had been any closer, he probably would have actually knocked some teeth out. So anyway, this is a big digression. So I was in a band, went up to Springfield a lot for that, started making friends there. I out of high school wanted to study audio engineering, so that's what brought me to Missouri State. They were basically the only option at the time in Missouri. I knew I wanted to stay in state. I had a lot of friends, and a lot of my friends ended up in Springfield. I went on to college, whereas most of my friends who I was in the band with went on to kind of do that professionally for a little bit. They toured, but they were based out of Springfield, and so that was where my friend group was. Um, Lived there for a long time. After college, I moved to South Korea for a year where I was an English teacher, and it was there that I saw the growth of collegiate esports, and video games was always a passion of mine. And I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life, and so um, I was volunteering as an analyst with the team at Southwest Baptist while I was there, and then that kind of led to my first gig at Culver Stockton College, and now I'm back in Springfield at Drury. So once again, full circle. I spent most of my adult life in Springfield, so no, I'm technically not from there, but I love that town and I'm really happy to be back.
Awesome. I have not been back to Springfield in over a oh, oh over a over a decade. Well over a
It's
decade.
still the conservative town that it's always been, and
Yeah.
all the good and bad that that brings. But
How's
there's a
Branson?
lot of cool stuff happening downtown. Um, there's a really cool. I think you'd appreciate this. There's a really big drag show that happens once a month downtown in Springfield, and it's like one of the main kind of like nightlife attractions anymore.
Wait, what kind
Um,
of drag we talking, like cars?
no, like drag queens.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. It's
Well,
called
good.
Get Dusted. If you're ever in Springfield, I'll take you. It's a blast.
Fair enough. Yeah, I actually was questioning the car thing because I mean like that area, at least that region, like the Ozarks, it's just in general. Like I did know a lot of people who had like car show. Like I think there was used to be a car show in Branson way back in the day. I don't know if it's still
Mm,
there, but I know cars.
surely.
Yeah, yeah, I know cars are very relevant over in that area. I used to know a dude. I don't know if his when I was a kid, I never understood people's names, but this guy's name was Dode. I don't know if that was his real name or not, but
Jode? That's
he
not a real name.
uh,
That's a fake name.
that's what I thought too. But there's some weird characters down in the Ozarks. But
Yeah, for sure.
so yeah, he had a souped up car that he drove in the parade. I don't know, like that's interesting. Yeah, I'm glad there's a
Yeah,
drag show. I guess I never looked for drag shows when I was a kid, but I'm glad that Springfield has
yeah,
that to offer. Have you?
yeah. It's showing that a corner is being turned and the young people are getting out and expressing themselves, and
Yeah.
I think that's all great.
How's Branson looking?
You know what? I don't get down to Branson much. I had some friends that lived out there for a bit. A girlfriend of mine in college actually worked at the Yakov Smirnoff Theater, so I got to go to a
Ooh.
show there once. Um, but no, it's good that it's there, and I'd like to see it continue to be successful. It drives tourism in the region, but I think it's going to get to a point where the audience that they cater to is gonna die.
They're
Frankly,
yeah
they're gonna get old, and
yeah. I
then
mean, Andy
yeah,
Williams isn't there. Like the Osmonds. Like I don't know how much of our generation knows the Osmonds.
right, yeah. So I think they're in for a change soon.
Yeah.
I don't know what that looks like, if it's magic shows or what they're gonna do to draw in the young crowd. But I do have a concern that
my
in the
my
next 10 to 20 years it won't be what it once was.
My Chemical Romance is gonna retire like everyone else and just go there.
Yeah.
The
Oh, yeah. That would
used.
be so smart. You
That
know
would
what? That's
be
the business
hilarious.
move.
That would be
Whenever you're done
hilarious.
doing what you're doing, come back to the Ozarks. We'll start up a theater.
Oh my
We'll,
gosh.
we'll bring in all the old emo scene kid acts.
Our generation of Andy Williams.
Yep. Yep. Nope. That's perfect. That's
Dear
the $1 million
Lord.
idea.
Whoa, my gosh, that would change that whole city.
Yep.
So, NACE.
Yes.
We could talk about the Ozarks all day. Talk about a lot of things all day. But
Yeah.
NACE.
hmm
How was that? You're on the board of advisors. It is.
I'm on the competition council.
Okay. What does that
Yeah.
entail? What does that mean?
So, uh, context, NACE has been around since about 2006, National Association of Collegiate Esports. I imagine everyone listening to this through their connections with you is probably aware of that, but just, any stray listener that came in through the wrestling or, whatever else, just to
Pray.
get them up to speed.
I
Yeah,
hope so.
exactly. Um, so they've been around for a while. Started with like 6 members, then went to 20, then went to 40, and now we're somewhere around 140, 150. And for the longest time, um, the national office has just been kind of running things. It's designed to be a membership organization of the member institutions, just like the NAIA or the NCAA and traditional athletics. But there just wasn't enough members and enough expertise in the space yet for them to really devolve that power down to the members. This is the first time that that's happened. Technically, there was a board of directors in the past and a competition council, but a lot of the folks that were serving on that either moved on into new industries or just weren't really involved in the space anymore. So the competition council in particular is tasked with, like the name suggests, looking for new areas of competition. And that was kind of the tension point for a lot of schools, myself included. I like NACE. I think it has the potential to do amazing work in the space. It's not there yet. There's a lot of valid critiques of it. And the main one for a lot of folks was that it wasn't providing the value for current programs. NACE has done a lot of amazing work to start up new programs through their, they were basically started by the NAIA, so they have expertise and knowledge and how to approach college administrators and how to get this new sport started. And I credit them in addition with folks like Chris Haskell and Kurt Melcher for being kind of the leading evangelists of college esports. And they've essentially created a whole new employment category that allows me to potentially do this as a career. When I started in college esports, I thought, that'll be interesting. That might lead to something else. I don't know what that's going to look like, but very quickly they've made it a thing that can stick around and something that I could potentially bank on as a career moving forward. So I'm really grateful to them for that. But they, for existing members, a lot of their partnerships were, here's access to be recruited, so we'll help you recruit players, and we'll get you in touch with, manufacturers of computers, and that a lot of it was geared towards helping new programs, or rather, administrators that don't know the first thing about esports and need that assistance. So for them, it's really valuable. And there's also a lot of institutions that need um, the legitimacy that NACE brings to get their administrators on board. But for a lot of schools that have been in it for now 2, 3 years, they're not seeing the value. It's hard for them to justify the expense of the dues because most programs don't run on a very large budget. And so the dues, they're not a lot, but they, in the grand scheme of things, but to a lot of programs, it is. And there's a lot of great things that they could do with that money. So they need to see more from it. And this gets into the politics of like publishers and should it be an open or a closed ecosystem. So NACE in the past or last year signed that partnership with Hi-Res. So NACE is the sponsor of Collegiate, Smite, and Paladins, which is amazing. But also, how many people do you know that play Smite and Paladins?
Right. Yeah.
Everyone's playing League of Legends and Overwatch, and the two big gorillas in the room, Riot and Blizzard, Blizzard through Tespa, are kind of running that. My argument and the argument of many people has been that we need to stick it out because eventually NACE will get to a critical mass point where they can um, convince these developers to let us kind of do our own thing in the space, not to take over, say what Riot's doing with CLOL or what Blizzard's doing with Tespa, but to give us our own competition. Because as a varsity coach, one of our one of my biggest frustrations, and I hear this from a lot of other coaches, is that um, you know one week we might play another varsity team and I can call their director and I know ahead of time that they're going to be there. We can prepare the broadcast. We can build up the hype for that matchup. But then the next week we might play, Northwest Community State Clown College and the 5 students there that put together their team, and they may or may not show up. There's a lot of great club teams out there. That was half a joke. I don't want to talk down on all these club teams, but
Right.
there's some that are just, it's 5 friends. They're like,
No,
let's do that. We
CSL
don't have a
runs
club
into
at our
that a lot.
school. Exactly. So there's a lot of no shows, and so that can be really frustrating. That kind of just scratches the surface. There's a lot we can get into with it, but the big thing that came out of this NACE convention is that we finally have devolved power out to the members. There's definitely a lot of concerns people still have, and in fact, waiting for my plane today and in between flights, I spent a lot of time on the Discord chatting with folks about their concerns, and many of them are legitimate. So there's still a long ways to go, but I think we finally made some progress. I was very skeptical coming in of whether my institution should even stay in NACE for another year, because people are right. Like it doesn't offer much value yet, and I think we'll get there. And there's some big things coming that I can't quite speak to yet. Unfortunately, I can't give you the scoop on this big announcement. um, I think NACE wants to make sure their ducks are in a row before they announce kind of what their big potential plans are
Sure.
for the future, but we're working on it, and to many people that's frustrating, and I get that, but um, it takes time. We're 3 years in.
Yeah.
It's going to take some time, and
Well,
I
even
think we're making progress. So
yeah, and even though NACE has been around for, I always spell out the letters. NACE, even though NACE has been around for a while, the boom of collegiate esports has not been around for that long. So yeah, I mean, it's natural that there's going to be some growing pains, and I hope that things do get worked out, because I do like the idea of an institution or an infrastructure, if you will, that does is inclusive to a lot more schools, which uh, I don't want to compare it fully to NCAA or anything like that, but NCAA does help out in that regard. But they have clearly said, I think they've went on record saying that esports is on their radar, but it's not a priority right now. So something like NACE does seem a little bit more appealing to me from the outside when I'm not actually having to deal with any of those issues, because I do like to see that sort of institution being able to provide some sort of infrastructure for the collegiate system all around. And even Riot, they're starting to do it specifically with their own game, but they are opening up a little bit more with their I think it's RSAA.
correct, yeah.
Yeah.
RSA.
Yeah, which they're opening up to having, I guess, more influencers from outside of Riot, which I think is critical for Riot itself, because they seem to self-destruct at everything they do, or at least to me, just sort of. I just don't feel like Riot opinion is the only opinion that should go into an ecosystem that affects more than Riot, which is typically what they do. But I'm glad that the collegiate side is actually opening up to that sort of thing, and I do look forward to seeing what they can do. But it would be really nice if they can somehow collaborate with like NACE, because NACE is growing, they're evolving, and with that comes pain. So that's
I think
interesting.
the schools, there are a lot of pain points and a lot of frustrations, and a lot of folks kind of want out of NACE at the moment. And for those listening, I think it's worth sticking it out for another year. That's my personal opinion. If you disagree, by all means. But if not NACE, someone else will come in and try and be that unifying organization. And um, we need something to represent our collective interests against the publishers. Otherwise, we're just going to have to take whatever the publishers give us. And to their
Exactly.
credit, like CLOL is, I have some critiques of it, but it's amazing that they do that, and that they put on this big finals, and they give all of this recognition to these teams that put in a lot of hard work. So what they're doing is great, but I think a lot of us want is a seat at the table. No one's saying that we want to go to Riot and get the keys to the kingdom and run CLOL ourselves, or um, compete with that. I think we just want a license so we can have maybe our own tournament or our own fall preseason or something. Because in addition to the no shows on the scheduling side of things, it's also very frustrating because you don't know your opponents until a week or two before in almost every venue for competition in collegiate esports right now, which makes it really difficult to build up those storylines and to build up hype around these things. There's been some folks that have tried to advance that cause in the past. The Drake Porters of the world, trying to stir up some conversation and some false drama. For the longest time, I thought that guy was such a jerk, and then I met him in person and went, "Oh, this is just a
Smart dude.
a
Like, he
persona
doesn't
you
get
put on."
yeah, it's a persona. He doesn't get near as
Yeah,
much credit from people because he does, like, people just it's kind of like wrestling. People sometimes think it's real, and
yeah.
yeah,
And so those storylines are needed, and it's really difficult
yeah,
if we don't know who our opponent's going to be. Like traditional sports, our basketball team at Drury knows who our opponents are going to be for next year, and we have time to plan. So something like that would be great, where I can know on this date we're going to be playing, um, Maryville, and we know that they're the national champions, so we can build up a storyline about us being the underdog and trying to take them down. Or the Southwest Baptist has a program; they just joined our traditional athletics conference, the GLVC, so we can and even then, when they weren't in our conference, they're so close to us that anytime we would play them, that has a name because we're the Panthers and they're the Bearcats question mark. So it's called the Cat Fight. So we
yeah,
can tap into some of these existing um, athletics rivalries and storylines, give our production team time to work up graphics and level up that broadcast and make it more than just like, oh, the game's about to start and we're here and the game's happening. We can really make it more professional. So that would help. But yeah, I think it's overall a step in the right direction. There's some really amazing people involved. Like I'm just there to serve. I'm not the most knowledgeable person in the world, but I was the one that stood up and said, "Hey, we need to follow some of our own rules and really start implementing this and devolving the power down." But a lot of the people on the board of directors, Chris Haskell in particular from Boise State, yeah, he's just so wise and clearly cares for his students and is doing great work in the space. He's on the board of directors. That's awesome. Sean Burney from St. Clair, he's on the board. He's amazing. He brought a couple of his students. And for those that don't know, he at his college in Canada also runs like a 2-year academic program on esports. So he's already kind of training the next generation of leaders and bringing them to this convention and getting them roped in and involved in the process. I think that's great. He's doing great work. So there's a lot of awesome people that were elected by the members to serve, and hopefully moving forward we'll be able to do some good work. And um, if not, if we can't make a dent in it, if we can't get the publishers on board, then I'm totally willing to revisit it. I'll be the first one to say, hey, if we can't get more value for the members, then what are we doing here? But I think some big things are coming, and I'm really excited about it.
yeah. That does sound really exciting. I actually hope it does. I don't know why I say actually. I really do hope it works out because yeah, I feel like NACE. I'm gonna keep spelling those letters out until the day I die. I feel like NACE. It is needed, but yeah, like you said, it does need to evolve and address some of the issues. I did see that Sean Morrison actually he was there from ESPN,
Hmm.
and he released the competition council on his Twitter. So there are
Yep,
actually
and the board.
yeah, and the board yeah. Chad Smeltz is there too. So Harrisburg
Yep.
University, yeah. So Chad Smeltz is actually one of the big players as well
Yeah.
in Collegiate, who's kind of really taking things up a notch as far as the quality of the expectation of what a collegiate program should be. So, I mean, you do have some like actual like influencers on the competition council for sure. Uh,
Yeah.
with that being said, like, um, so oh yeah, you're not actually you said you weren't actually allowed to say what kind of changes were proposed or plans were proposed, right?
Yeah, unfortunately, I can't
No, that's
speak to
fine.
that. I got a peek behind the curtain today
Yeah.
on some of the stuff that has been in the works. It's the type of like high level contractual stuff that just can't be opened up to everyone.
No, that's understandable.
But that's why the association exists. That's why we elect a board of directors. I won't actually. The competition council won't be making a decision on that. We're clued into it, and we give feedback because we do represent the members, but it's at the end of the day the board of directors who are voted in by the members that are going to make that decision. And our constitution and bylaws, even the original version, we updated them at this convention, which was a change that needed to happen. But um, the original constitution and bylaws empower them to make those decisions on behalf of the membership, and that's kind of how these things work in traditional athletics as well. And so I trust the folks on the board. They had some great questions. They're not just taking it all at face value, because it looks amazing on paper, but there's some key points that need to be ironed out. And I know that that's kind of one of their first priorities, is to start talking about that and seeing if it's going to work and if it's really going to provide value and if there's maybe another way that we can approach it. But I know it is a focus moving forward to try and get some cool events, some new amazing things for the members.
That's great. I'm glad something is at least going forward with with the whole aspect of it, and that at least shows that there's passion within the industry, and people who want to do something, and organization that is willing to step forward and do it. Even though Blizzard and Riot kind of monopolize their own games, I feel like there's still opportunity there, and I'm really glad there's something being worked on for that. Now, you got to intermingle with a lot of people. Would you like? What kind of? Oh man, I wish I were a fly in the wall. Like I wish I just would have went. I don't have the.
It was awesome. I had a lot of really interesting conversations. I think a standout, I got to meet Garvey from Twitch.
Yeah, I've always been interested in meeting him.
Oh God, he is so personable, and he went out of his way to meet as many people as he could. He's really supportive of the idea of NACE. I guess not NACE in particular, but somebody like that. He is a big proponent of that idea of a critical mass, that we're not going to get the publishers to notice us until we represent enough schools. But the work that he does with Twitch Student is one of the main areas of value that NACE can provide. That's not really NACE specific, actually. I think anyone can go through the Twitch student program, but the expertise they offer through that partnership is valuable, and I think that will level up in the future. But no, I had some really interesting conversations with him, and I personally didn't realize, his background in the space. I knew he was someone, but through our conversation, he was going through his Instagram, showing me photos of like him with the original Cloud9 roster as soon as they became Cloud9, and like him with Fnatic at the season 1 world championship.
He's been around for a long time.
Yeah
I followed him for quite a while, because like I not to be cocky or anything, I feel like I got into Collegiate more like before a lot of people, but then there's other people that just go and do more important things than I have done and will ever do, as far as I know. And Garvey's one of them. I don't want to call it jealousy, but there is like an aspect of me who's like, I want to do that. But Garvey's doing it because he's good at it, so more power to him.
He told me a lot of kind of his personal story, and that man has done a lot of work. He's earned the place that he's at. He's done some crazy innovative things, and he told me that he essentially like invented the idea of day trading. Like, he was one of the first people to do that. He was living in New York, and just had like an early cell phone, and was like 10 minutes ahead of everyone trying to do manual trading, and he just did that as kind of on a whim while he was working as like a UPS driver or something. And I was like, "There's what? That sounds ridiculous." And he's like, "No, it's real." He pulled up like the New York Times article that from like 1998 or something that featured him, and I was like, "What?"
Oh, you're shitting me. He actually had evidence.
Yeah, no, it was. He's one of those guys where he's so personable, and he talks a lot, and he's so engaging that your first thought is like, no, this is garbage. There's no way. He's just lying through his teeth, and he's not. He's the real deal. It was crazy. So I had a great talk with him. I had a great talk with a lot of other coaches. It was just really cool to meet up with peers, because this is so new. Outside of a handful of the people who have been in the space since day one, or who came from professional esports, the Dan Clerkies at Maryville of the world. Outside of those kind of OG folks, we're all new at this. Having been a coach going into my third year now, I'm experienced somehow.
Well, I mean, to be fair, Clerky's new too. It's just he had the management background of another team, E United.
Yeah.
So he transferred a lot of those skills over to Maryville University. It's just and props to him. He's been extraordinarily successful at the program over at Maryville University. But it's not like he's not new at Collegiate. He just had a lot of background in a different field of esports that he's applied over to Maryville. And again, props to him. It's worked out. But he's still new, and it's It's just worked out for him.
I mean, everyone is. That's the
Yeah,
thing.
exactly.
And
That's
so
yeah.
It was great to meet and reconnect with so many other people that are living the struggle that we're all going through on a day-to-day basis of trying to breathe life into this new thing and shape it into something that can be great because I work for an athletics department and we're an NCAA school. I have my critiques of the NCAA. They do a lot of good, but there's some major things that I would critique, and I'll leave it at that. But um, moving forward, we have the chance to kind of skip all of that and shape it in the way we want it to be.
Hey guys.
Um, so it was just so great to talk with other folks doing it and get their opinion on what it should look like, how we should shape it moving forward. And yeah, I'd encourage anyone and everyone to get involved. I mean, really, there's a lot of people that came from professional esports or semi-professional esports and have some kind of qualification that they can point to, and but really, it's going to be this next generation of students, those college students that are right now, you know, came in as a freshman, was a starter for their league team for 4 years or what have you, were involved with their broadcast. Maybe they took actual classes on esports. They're going to be the leaders of the future. They're going to come out and take what we started and then turn it into the next great collegiate sport. Um, so I'm excited to see that.
Yeah, very much believe so on that one because some people, especially early going in collegiate esports specifically, there was a skeptical, I guess, crowd or notion saying, we're doing this for free. Why are we doing this for free? Like, we're not going to get anything for this. But I don't think they understand how important it is to build a foundation for the future to be able to do something like this for a living. And
Yeah.
it's essentially what you're talking about right now. Is that like, yeah. Obviously, now it's kind of to the point where you can be paid on certain aspects of it, but regardless, yeah, paving the way is so important for the future and future generations, and yeah, it's intimidating, and it's something.
That's why I got into it.
Yeah,
I found that I was doing like music lessons with kids when I was in college, and then I did the English teaching thing for a year, and I've been a lifelong gamer. So I found that I enjoyed teaching and mentoring, um, and that I kind of had a talent for it, but I didn't want to be a teacher or a professor. So this was kind of like the perfect intersection of my interests and my skills. Um, so that's why I do it, is to offer students this amazing opportunity, because really, I say two things. One, these students are doing it anyway. They're playing video games anyway. So that's, my pitch to parents or administrators is, let's bring them out of the dorm room. Let's bring them into a shared space where they can learn, teamwork and communication and responsibility, all the core lessons that you get through being a student athlete. But on top of that, um, it provides an opportunity to so many different types of students that otherwise would not have a niche, that wouldn't get plugged into their school. And I'm going to see it tomorrow when I go to Elkhart, and I'm seeing it at high schools all across the country where there's some overlap. There's some, there's always going to be that hyper involved student that's in band and drama and on the football team and on the esports team, but the vast majority might not have a niche otherwise, might not have a reason to get plugged into school, and this is giving them that. And that's what I love about it. That's why I want to do this.
and that's very admirable for sure. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to get into it so early too. Is like, at least there is some sort of history being set here because, like, obviously I don't really consider myself a historian, but I do keep a lot of records for my own, like, and I do have a steel trap of a lot of this stuff. And I'm gonna go off a topic a little bit here, but
go ahead.
It's gonna be about the history of collegiate esports. Some of it is completely erased. Oh man, I forgot to mention that on my last podcast. It dropped today. It was about me talking about working with Riot with the LICC, the League of Legends International College Cup over in China / Hong Kong, wherever it's being at that time. And I totally forgot. It doesn't exist. You go try to find it. It's not there. North America was represented. I casted it with Bill Carter and Brian Starkey, and Riot wasn't happy with it, and because it's League of Legends and because it was Riot sanctioned, they have the power to rewrite the history on that one, and they chose to delete all of that. It literally does not exist. But
Wow.
I know it does because I lived it, and I actually still have the spreadsheets for it, and the email talking to Michael Sherman about it. It's weird that there's a portion of esports that doesn't exist. Do you know who the first Collegiate League of Legends champion is that was sanctioned by Riot?
No, I don't actually. I
And
don't think I
if
do.
you go look it up, it's gonna be hard to find. But it was Washington University, or University of Washington, I believe. And most people don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, most people don't remember that because they can't find it. There's no history written down of this for the most part. Though I will say there is an esportspedia that's actually has contacted me to help out with that sort of thing, and I've given them as much information as possible. But man, my point is that like in the next generation, there's going to be a portion that's missing, which I don't know if it's super relevant to them, but imagine not learning about a portion of history in, say, just United States history, and then learning about it later on. It kind of changes the way things are looked at. And I feel like every piece of history is important, from the good to the bad. Even little mess ups, like a very small one, which I guess you can kind of understand why it was edited out. But over in Hugh Fest last year, what was his name? I think it was Blackanola. He was the host for it, and
I know what you're talking about, I think, but go ahead.
with the Drake Porter thing, where he asked where he asked Drake Porter a question.
Yeah.
And Drake Porter was just kind of
awesome.
Yeah.
No, we were a bunch of coaches were talking about that. A bunch of us that were there had that conversation because we were in that same theater watching the show match they put on between Harrisburg and Boise State, and we were like, "You remember when at Hugh Fest, Blackanola asked him a question and Drake couldn't hear it, so he said."
Awesome.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that? And then Blackanola didn't hear that, so he just said, "Ha, awesome," and it ended. No, there's a Twitch clip of that somewhere.
There is.
There is a bunch of people clipped it, but there's
Yeah.
a Twitch clip of that, and it's hilarious.
It
because
actually got
Drake
really
does like a
popular.
little double take at the camera.
Yeah.
It
No,
was amazing.
it's hilarious. But if those Twitch clips are removed, where are you going to find it? Because Harrisburg
Yeah.
University, they edited it out. And that's the thing.
Really?
Yeah, it's if you go to their YouTube, you can't find it. You have to go to those Twitch
no.
clips. You have to go to third-party sources. And back then, there weren't third-party sources recording things. And
Yeah.
that's the thing, is that like, if there's something wrong or something that somebody doesn't like, and if there's no third-party sources, unless you have first, you just have, like, for me, if I told you about anything LICC from 2 years ago, you just have to keep my word. You just have to take my word for it. Because
Yeah, I have a vague memory of when it happened, but
yeah, I remember.
yeah.
I remember.
Even this one is not very well publicized. Like, I just happen to know that it's happening because I'm in the space, but it's not been publicized. I know, I think there's an esportspedia page
There is.
about it, but I don't even think the roster is fully set yet,
No.
or like the teams competing. And so is it going to be streamed? Like, I feel like this should be something publicized. It is. It's a 10-cent thing. So this is, the next level above Riot.
Yeah. And it's
they
international.
got teams from all over the world.
It's
Yeah.
international. It should be huge. I actually do have
This
a
is
website.
like the world championship, basically.
I do have a website for it, which actually should tweet out. But the group stages don't technically start until from 6 days from, like, a week from now. So it's not technically underway yet. So I'm still curious to see how much publicity actually goes out. Like, I think Clerky may be tweeting about it. I certainly hope he would, but because Maryville's representing North America over there. But yeah, I mean, that's how it's been every year. There's just not that much publication on it. There's not much of anything on it. And this website, I'm so blessed to have, and I'm so happy that it's in English, because for the past, at least the first one, or the one 2 years ago, it was in Chinese characters, and you had to be lucky that if you were Google translated it, that it would be in order and in proper format, because a lot of it wasn't, because the format of Chinese characters from to English characters is so drastically different. So
Right.
when it translated, it would just take on a whole different format.
Oh,
on the website.
it totally breaks. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
it
very
completely
hard to.
breaks. So I'm
It's
actually
just the context, it gets lost. So
I'm really grateful for this website, and I'll actually tweet this after we get done here, because
Cool.
Yeah, I should actually keep up with this a little bit more. At least I not just keep up with it, but actually like talk about it more on Twitter, because this is really important.
I just found the website, and apparently it's also a music festival?
It
Question mark.
is, yeah.
So
Yeah, it's essentially Hugh Fest over in Hong Kong, powered
nice.
by Tencent. So there's
Right.
probably like 1,000 times more money. Not saying anything against Hugh Fest. That thing was huge, but
Oh yeah.
yeah, this is yeah. Esports, which they put a hyphen in esports, bless their hearts.
Rip.
Esports and and music
You hate to see
festival.
it.
I certainly do.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, what else happened at NACE? Was there anything else? Anything else interesting of note that happened at NACE?
So the big things that happened are we passed the new constitution and bylaws. So in addition to kind of replacing wholesale the old um, board of directors and competition council, because like I said, a lot of those folks moved on. Um, there were some new rules passed within the bylaws. So, well, backing up, we passed the new constitution first, and that afforded for the creation of two new kind of subcommittees. One is the eligibility enforcement committee, the other is the appellate review committee. And then within the bylaws, there were some new rules passed. I was kind of in favor of holding off on passing those because I knew they would be controversial, and I wanted as many people in on that conversation as possible. And a lot of the people that uh, would be against those proposals weren't at the convention, so they weren't there to vote. So, while they had the chance to be there, they weren't, and so their voices weren't heard. And so I was like, let's hold off on some of these new rules and regulations, kind of like stuff that you would see in traditional athletics to try to like prevent bad actors and somewhat level the playing field and whatnot. And so there was a lot of discussion about things. Some of it was just the rules that were put in place were non-rules. So, for example, a rule about financial assistance. The rule is that you can give a student financial aid up to the cost of tuition, room, board, books. So basically, you can give them whatever you want.
Right.
So nothing really changed there. The substantive rules that were changed, there's now not starting this school year, but for next school year. So if you're a potential college esports athlete and you're starting in 2020, the fall of 2020, um, you'll be if you're at an ACE institution, you'll be required to sign what's called an ITC, an intent to compete form, um, and that basically signals that you are playing for that school and you are committed to that school, and you can't sign them for the following year until February 2. So that essentially locks you in at that school. I think the purpose is to sort of prevent poaching. Um, that doesn't mean that you can't get out of it. If either party, the student or the school, kind of breaks any of these rules, then the ITC is void. And then also, any director or coach could just void it at any time, which I think is what most coaches would do. I know if one of my players came to me in the fall and they said, "Hey, I'm not happy. I'm thinking about transferring," I would work with them to try and solve any issues they may have. And if they still want to leave, then I would let them. If they don't want to be there, I don't want them there. You know what I mean? Um,
Yeah.
but poaching has been a big issue in the space. So that rule was passed to try and help deal with that. The other, and I think the most controversial one, was a 5-year clock. So, like you have in traditional athletics, you can't just continue going to school for 10 years and playing football. We now have that for NACE institutions. So once you sign your ITC, that starts a 5-year clock, and after 5 years, you're no longer eligible to participate in collegiate esports. Now, there's some a lot of potential exceptions there. They don't actually exist yet, but rewinding, we created that eligibility enforcement committee and the appellate review committee. So any school or any student could appeal for an exemption to that rule, because many good points that were brought up in the discussions about this rule were, what happens if I recruit a player and then they go pro and then they come back and they were pro for like 4 years? They lost most of their eligibility because it's a running clock. What happens if they do military service? What happens if they have a medical issue or a mental health issue that causes them to leave for a time? The last thing they want to be worrying about is, oh no, my clock's running out.
Right.
So the attitude in the room was that, yeah, of course we would allow those exceptions. We had limited time, and we didn't want to like formally write all of those in, but essentially how the EEC, the Eligibility Enforcement Committee, works, as written in the bylaws. They are the interpreter of the NACE Constitution and bylaws. So they're the Supreme Court, and people can appeal to them, and they will make rulings that will create precedent. So if someone comes to them and says, "Hey, I did 2 years of military service, I shouldn't lose 2 years of my clock," and they go, "We agree," that kind of becomes precedent moving forward. So I think that's a decent way to go about it. I think it's really hard to, from square one, especially with all of the basic other things we were trying to get past. It's really hard to, from square one, write in all of those various exceptions. The NCAA has been around for 100 years, and they're still um, trying to work things out and come to a more perfect understanding of how regulations should work. On the flip side, there's a lot of people that are really frustrated about that because, for example, uh, take UCI. They're not in NACE. So a NACE member is now forced to hold themselves to a higher standard and apply these rules to themselves that others don't have to. So,
But
UCI,
but
as an example, could
but that's
theoretically take a player because they don't have to play by these ITC rules. So
but
we're choosing to limit ourselves, and some people view that as a negative.
but that's kind of why you guys want your own league to be able to enforce all those rules within the infrastructure and make it a level playing field.
Yeah, well, so as written, yeah, so we'd be competing amongst ourselves. But as written, if you're a NACE member, that rule applies to your teams competing across all games. So it would apply to your League of Legends players because you've chosen to be a member of NACE, therefore you've chosen to follow those rules. So even if Riot wouldn't have those particular rules and they could still technically compete in CLOL and Riot wouldn't stop them, if you're a NACE member and you were in violation of those rules, then potential penalties could come down from that eligibility enforcement committee. And then quickly, the appellate review committee is, if you don't like the ruling, you can appeal it to them. So those are the major things that were added. I was in favor of not implementing the 5-year clock and waiting to do that. I think something like that would be good, but there's just so many exceptions and loopholes and gray areas that we need more time to really dive into that before we make that a rule. But also, the ITC forms don't even go into effect until the following school year, not this school year that's about to start, but the next one. And then we won't see our first player running out of a clock until 5 years after that. So this won't really even be an issue until 6 years down the line. We might see some exemptions being asked for between now and then that will start to create a precedent. Um, that's one way of doing it. But at the end of the day, it's a member association. So members get a say. They just have to show up and vote.
Fair enough. And that's how, honestly, that's how it should be. If you, yeah,
Yeah.
if you are a member, you should be able to say
Yeah.
what.
Well, that was the other controversial thing is that you had to be in attendance to vote. So there were a lot of folks that did not go and felt like that was unfair, that they should have been able to vote regardless. I tend to agree with that. I think moving forward, it wouldn't be hard to create some sort of solution. There's some concerns where you want to make sure that um, the person on the other side of the screen is actually who they say they are and that their vote is legitimate. I don't think that's too hard to figure out, and we could implement that in the future to allow people to vote. But then there's also the concern that if we allow people to vote online, then no one will come to the convention. And there's a lot of value in
Ooh.
getting everyone together in the same room, discussing it together, going through the motions of Robert's rules of saying, I so move to do this. Second, let's have discussion. And that's what happened. And so while I don't necessarily agree with the 5-year clock rule that we put in place, it was a close vote. I was actually the one to move to strike that for now out of the bylaws, and I think the final vote was something. It was like a 3-vote margin, so it was very close. But that was the democratic process in action. So while I personally didn't vote for the result, I'm going to support it because it's what we voted on. It's what the members chose. So I'll stand by it.
There you go. There's really nothing else you can do because that's how life is.
Yeah, we voted. I mean,
Yeah.
for now, that's the system we have to work with. And if we
Yeah.
want to make it better, we can, but it's going to take time. Getting back to what I said at the start is like, is it perfect? No. Are there legitimate concerns? Of course. As a member of the competition council, I want to hear all of those. I'm here to serve and get us to a more perfect union, get us to a place where we can all be happy with the organization that we've chosen to join. So.
Fair enough, and that's a good mindset to have, of course, like, especially when you're among a team. And yeah, obviously, again, you said it's a democratic way of looking at things, so running things rather. So yeah, it's probably the best attitude you can have. And I hope, I mean, I do have faith. I mean, it's gonna get better. The growing pains are going to alleviate, and eventually other growing pains are gonna present themselves. But for now, I believe these ones. I have hope for the future, no matter what. For NACE, I didn't spell it out that time.
There you go. You nailed it that time. And me too. I'm glad you feel that way as well. So.
Yeah. No, I've always been outside looking in, because obviously I'm not part of it, but it does affect me because I love Collegiate and I want the best for it. And
go to UNLV and get them to start a team. You can be the coach.
Well, actually, they already have a team. They do.
Oh, do they really?
Yeah. They have a whole little organization. It's not a scholarship program or anything of the sort right now. It's just a student-driven club, but they are working on it. In fact, I was meaning to get the one of the lead dudes on here on my podcast, because it's been around for a second now, and actually they host the. What is it? Mountain West. I think it's a Mountain West competition there.
That's right.
Yeah, Boise goes to it. I have a T-shirt from there, and I actually met two of the casters from Boise and had them on my show a couple weeks ago, 3 weeks ago.
Nice.
Yeah.
There's just so much happening in the space. It's so hard to stay on top of all of it. So
yeah,
I appreciate what you do in publicizing, your corner of it.
I'm really trying. I'm trying to get in every corner and at least get some sort of opinion on everything. There's something going on everywhere, and I'm glad, because that means there's an endless supply of content, but that also means it takes a lot longer to get through the content and to publicize it and to learn about it, because I as much as I do pride myself on being an encyclopedia of collegiate league, or no, just collegiate league, collegiate esports, it's growing to the point where it's hard for me to catch everything. And say you ask me something about Collegiate Overwatch, I ain't gonna know crap about it, but I could get to somebody who does know about it. It's a big chain, and that chain is growing larger and larger, and that's good, and it's also, it does present its challenges, but that's just how it is with anything that's growing. And I'm happy that there are challenges, because that means that I have to find different solutions for that sort of thing. And one of those solutions I found was creating a podcast to just address some of those. So that's that's where I'm at. That's where you're at with NACE. So
exactly.
Yeah, we're all working.
Circle.
We're all in this together. Your whole life seems a big circle, and it seems like a very large circle, and I like that. That's harmony to me.
Yeah.
We're
in unison. We've aligned our chakras.
There we go. I love chakras. I even know the whole damn things are out of whack.
Yep. We gotta bring them in line.
That's a That 70s Show quote, by the way, from Bob Pinciotti.
Oh man, I'm gonna have to go back and watch that. I used to love that show.
Yeah, he used to. So he during the first 3 seasons, him and Midge are trying doing all these weird things, exploring each other's lives and getting new. And Bob went to a yoga thing, and Midge had already been practicing it and dragged him there because he was angry all the time for her standing up first. I don't know. It was some sort of scenario, and Midge got him to go to some sort of thing to align his chakras, and he was super convinced about it because he buys into all that sort of thing, and he was like, I didn't even know the damn things were out of whack. And it's one of the funniest lines I've heard ever. It's
oh man, I'm gonna have to go find a GIF of that so that I can bust that out in just the right moment.
Yeah, I watch that 70s Show all the way through once a year, so I just have I have snippets of that whole thing memorized.
That sounds like me with Star Trek.
I do that same thing with Star Trek. I've watched Voyager, Deep Space Nine, and TNG.
Really?
At least, yeah.
How excited are you for the new Picard series?
Oh my god! So I have not seen Discovery yet, and it just hasn't pulled me in, and I don't know why. I want to go see it. There's only 2 series I haven't watched in its entirety, and that was the original series, which I've seen snippets of, and Enterprise.
It's hard. It's hard to watch the original.
It is.
And same with Enterprise.
I've
seen it all because I'm a mega fan, but
I consider myself a mega fan, and I cannot get over George Bush in space. That's essentially what Captain Archer is, because that came out during the Bush era. And I might
now that you said that, I can't unthink that. So thank you for that.
I've done that to another one of my friends too. Yeah, don't worry.
That's basically what that is. Oh my goodness.
Just a Texan in space. It's.
You're right. Because I had watched all the way through every other series. Well, the 3 good ones anyway. The first three you mentioned, and so I was like, well, I can either start over again with the Next Generation, which even then you don't start, you start halfway through season 2. Start with Measure of Man,
Yeah. I don't
but
like. I start after they get rid of the front zipped uniforms and go to the back zipped
yep,
ones.
and once Riker grows the
Your
beard,
beard, yes, yeah, exactly.
yep. So, but no, I tried to give Enterprise a shot again, and it like in that first episode, there's just like this really awkward moment where they're like outside the medical bay with that Klingon, and Archer's getting in the face of the Vulcans, and then T'Pol, it's one of the first times you see her, and she kind of steps up and says something, and Archer like gets in her face and says something like, "Well, how about I knock you on your ass?" And it's like, whoa, that didn't age well. Like he's just being
No.
really aggressive to this woman in particular, who's also a alien that is saying the right thing, but he's just losing his mind. Like I don't know. And I get they probably did that to show character development, that he becomes a little more enlightened and calms down a little bit, but it's
Yeah.
still just like strikes me the wrong way, where I'm like,
It-
I don't like this
It's not
guy.
just character development, but it's like a couple of generations before TNG, and like the big thing about TNG, and that even stands out from the original series, as far as like the story, is that humans have evolved to, not have those kind of things. I mean, obviously you see that in TNG every now and then, where like humans actually do get very emotional. Obviously, Riker is very emotional.
Yeah,
And Geordi,
but just
especially.
in general, they've moved past that.
Yeah, they move past, and like you see a more civilized human race, and I guess I get why they did that in Enterprise, because they're not there yet. They just like how many years was it after Cochrane? It was like 100 years after. I don't remember.
Yeah. It's about 100 years. They talk about that in that first episode.
So like
it's only been 100 years, and we've eliminated poverty and so on and so on.
The common cold, all that stuff. Yeah, and yeah, so like I kind of get what, man, it's just, oh my gosh, I just can't get it. And then the intro song just it nails on a chalkboard to me. I cannot get.
It's been a long road. Yep.
That was a better rendition than that actual song.
Yeah, probably.
Oh my god.
Quick plug for some other content. Have you ever heard of the YouTube channel Trexpertise?
I don't think so.
Oh man, I'll link it to you right now.
I'll try
in
it.
the Discord. As soon as we're done, you got to check out.
I get really bored at work, and I like, once I go through wrestling podcasts, I'm like, I have another like 6 hours, and I just try to find whatever I can. More than happy to get into some Star Trek content.
It's that nice like kind of like long form YouTube content. He does some stuff about kind of like sci-fi in general and philosophy, but most of it's about Star Trek. And
Does it get into the philosophy of Star Trek episodes and things like that?
Diving into philosophy or technology or just different aspects of Trek. And my favorite video, the first one I found, and the one I'm going to link to you here, is called "Is Captain Picard Your TV Dad?" So I'll just leave it at that. Watch this, you'll enjoy it, and then you're gonna go down a rabbit hole and watch all of his videos.
I will gladly watch that. I don't know, I might not watch it this weekend, but I'm definitely gonna watch it at work, because that's when I have the most YouTube time.
Yeah, no, it's good.
I just drone away doing the accounting thing.
Right. You gotta have that background noise. No, I think you'll really enjoy this channel. It's great, and you should watch Discovery. It's pretty good. It's very different from traditional Trek.
It's updated.
It's very epic. The stakes are so high, and the whole season is serialized. There's some amazing moments. The characters are great. Saru, the first officer, they introduced this new type of alien called the Kelpian, and like the way he walks, and it's amazing.
Interesting.
So yeah, I think you'd like it.
So one of the things that, and I see, so you're the second person this week actually to tell me give Discovery a chance, which I never did not give it a chance. It's just I haven't got around to it, and I know that it's gonna.
Well, you have to buy the CBS All Access.
Yeah, which that's another thing too. Which I guess I could just get it for a month and grind it and then leave.
Yeah,
until Picard comes out, then Picard. I'm like, I'm watching the minute Picard, the second Picard drops. I am gonna have some wine in my hand and dinner in front of me, and oh man, I cannot wait for Picard. I'm so excited.
It's gonna be incredible. Patrick Stewart's amazing, and everything that I've heard about it so far is that to hear the producers talk about it, he was already a master actor in the TNDJs.
Yeah.
The TNG days, but but he's like on another level now and just taking the character to a new place. So I'm really excited to see that. That's
Yeah,
gonna be
because he
insane.
didn't want to reprise Picard after Nemesis because he said that, I mean, his story's been told, but
Yeah.
he broke that, and yeah, and I know if he breaks what he said, he has a good reason. So
There's so much that they haven't gotten into with his character though, right? Like even just his like personal life stuff. They kind of touch on in the movies. His family.
it,
Um,
yeah,
and they
like
die in a fire and stuff.
like
Like
well, they touched on a little bit in the shows with his brother in the wine farm, which is I guess
yes,
what
I
he's
mean
inherited, and then in the
that
generation
3 episode swing is the best.
Yeah.
The end of that season, and then the start of the next season, and then episode 2, Brothers, where he goes home and wrestles with his brother in the mud, and
yeah.
yeah.
So
No, that's
yeah, and then like Generations showed things. I think his brother actually, or no, but his nephew. His nephew died in Generations.
I think they all died. I think like
Oh, okay.
his brother and his brother's son and his brother's wife. I think they all died. I'll have to look that up.
I know
I'll
he
look
was
that up right
super
now.
affected and like really just sad in Generations,
Yeah.
and then he went to the Nexus and like the Nexus was like, oh, it's supposed to be what your ideal life is, and all he wanted was a family. And
Yeah, it shows like him at Christmas.
oh
yeah.
my gosh, how emotionally
yeah.
heavy that scene is, because he never, because his life was, and that was the contrast between him and Kirk too, is that Kirk went to go have a family, and then they met, and man, the contrast,
Yeah.
just the weight, the emotional weight that is shown with Picard in his personal life in Generations is one of the biggest factors. Not to mention, I actually love the Duras sisters. I love anything with the Duras sisters.
Yep.
But man, like the amount of backstory that they told with Picard without actually showing his backstory, oh man, in Generations, there's just so much. Like he is such a tragic character because he gave up his whole life. He gave up all of his dreams of his personal life to do what was best for humanity and what he thought was best for the people around him. And he never took the time to do what was best for Picard. And that's essentially what Generations is about. And that there's the whole contrast between him and Kirk. Because Kirk was selfish and he did that, but he wasn't like, it's not a bad thing that he did that. And seeing how internally conflicted Picard was shows that Kirk being selfish, that's not the wrong choice. It's not the right choice either, though. Man, oh God.
Yeah.
Let's write a paper together.
Incredible. Yeah, let's do it. I'm so down. I just looked it up. It wasn't his sister-in-law. It was just his brother and his nephew that died in the fire. And I gave the wrong episode title. I feel really bad. That episode is called Family.
Yeah.
The TNG episode, season 4, episode 2. Brothers, the one I said, is a different episode. That's I think
that's
the
what
first
Data
time
and Lore.
Yep.
Yeah. God, look
Yeah.
at us. Whew. I should just have a different podcast already. So you and this other
we should
dude
have a Star Trek podcast.
So I actually might have you back on just to talk about that one day. I like having Collegiate people on here, even if we don't talk about Collegiate stuff, because I like the personalities of the humans behind Collegiate, because there's more than Collegiate esports to us. And this is just, oh man, we could get
Dude, this is refreshing because I've been doing nothing for the last 3 days but talking.
Yeah, I'll bet.
Sports,
yeah,
so.
Being a NACE.
So to unwind a little bit, talk about Star Trek and wrestling has been a blast. So
yeah, I know we wanted to get into NACE because I mean that was I mean obviously that reflects a lot onto the whole landscape of Collegiate. But man,
for sure, I wanted to share what happened and
I
make
wanted
sure that I gave an accurate picture of not just the good things but of the legitimate criticisms in the areas we can still grow. So I'm on the competition council. If you're a NACE member and you have thoughts, please talk to me, because I'm just here to represent you guys. So
yeah. So there's another gentleman that I had on the podcast. I think it was my second episode, and I never got to talk to him about Star Trek, but I don't know if he's officially a part of, like, into Star Trek, but I think he is, because his Discord name references red shirts, and I'm pretty sure.
Oh, surely then he must be, right?
I'm pretty sure. So
unless he's into that like book. Wasn't there a book that's not set in the Star Trek world, but it's kind of like...
There's a few of them. I think Shatner wrote a few of them that actually were set in the outside of the whole canon.
I think there's like a book called Red Shirts, though.
Oh my God! And that's another thing with the Picard, is that it's going to be after Spock time traveled, and like Vulcan's gone. Or no,
Yeah.
not Vulcan, not Vulcan. Romulus is gone.
Romulus. Yep.
Ooh.
That's what I'm most excited about, really, is to just see the story move forward, because all we've gotten for the longest time is prequels and remakes, and those are cool in their own right, but we got a glimpse of it with what happened in the remakes with the whole, Romulus blowing up, causing a alternate sort of timeline.
The
But no,
Kelvin.
I really want to. Yeah, the Kelvin timeline. Yeah, but no, I really want to see what happens after that because especially with Picard's background with the Romulans, like there's a lot of meat there. There's a lot of red meat to have some good stories.
Man, what a conversation we could have. It's an hour and 20 minutes we've been on this call, and like we could dedicate another hour or 2 hours to just Star Trek alone. So
yeah. Well, how about we do an episode after Picard comes out, after the first episode, we can just
it's coming out this year, so you bet your bottom dollar we're gonna have that conversation on this podcast.
Cool. That sounds
But for
great.
Now, let's wrap it up, man. It was really good talking to you. You have anything closing you wanna say?
No, I mean, thank you for having me on. I guess I should throw out the plug.
Yes.
Check out my new program at Jury University, esports.jury.edu. We're going to be doing some cool things. One of our big focuses is going to be on our media side of things. So we're offering scholarships not just for League of Legends, and then this next school year for Overwatch and Smash Brothers and some other games, but also just for media folks. So if you're the type of person that wants to be a shoutcaster or make podcasts or produce video content, I'm trying to kind of model what we're doing after what professional teams do with like having an in-house media team that does more than just run our Twitch broadcasts. So we'll be offering scholarships for that as well. But I just started there in April, so we're getting things off the ground. We should have some big announcements coming soon. The unveiling of our training facility, our initial roster, and our plans for this year. So if you're enjoyed this conversation and you think you'd like to come play for me, check us out, esports.jury.edu. Otherwise, thank you for having me on. Thanks for letting me recap all the NACE stuff and letting me nerd out about Star Trek. And I hope to be back on again soon, man. This really was a blast.
You're gonna be back on soon because
Cool.
we're in the end of the year. We have to talk about Picard. So yeah, it's gonna happen.
No, of course. I'm in. I'm so in.
My gosh, I'm so excited. Now it makes me even more excited about it. But thank you very much, Michael Jones, I should say, Coach Jones, for being on, man. And get some rest. I'm sure you're sleepy as hell at this point.
Oh yeah.
So I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, no problem. It was a blast. Thanks, Fatcase.
No problem, man. Thank you, and have a good night, bro.
Yeah, you too.
See ya.
See ya.
And there you have it. Good conversation. I actually listened back to both the interview. Well, not interview. It's not an interview. The conversation and my intro to this. And man, you can tell it's the morning. You can tell I'm dehydrated. You can tell I'm not necessarily tired anymore. I've been doing this now for like 10 minutes, and I'm pretty wired, I guess, for being at 6 a.m. So yeah, sorry about the quality of voice there, but that's what you do when you're when your home country team goes to represent around the world, and the time zone is drastically different. 'Cause, yeah, I would have been, now that I know they're getting out of groups. They got out of groups maybe like 3 hours ago. If maybe 4 hours ago, I would have felt really bad if I did this yesterday, didn't have that result, and then had to wait a week to report that on this podcast. So really glad that I I did this, but man, I sound different. Either way, great conversation with Michael Jones. We could have talked for way longer about a variety of topics, Star Trek especially, but yeah, thank you very much for listening. Very glad he was on. I hope to have him back. Actually, gonna have him back after Picard lands. And yeah, that alone gets me excited. That alone will wake me up because, yeah, I do. Oh man, love me some Star Trek, and I'm very excited about Picard. And actually, I just started Discovery last night. Got through the first episode. I'm intrigued. I'm only slightly hooked, but I'm definitely intrigued. Gonna keep watching that one. I should probably close this one out. I gotta go shower. I have to get ready for work. Actually, fun fact, I have to be working 1 hour at my old big boy job. But yeah, thank you very much for listening. My name is Joshua Fekes Quest. You can follow me on Twitter at twitter.com/Fekes. You can also, follow me here. Please like, share, subscribe. Leave a comment in the comment section below. I'm working on those graphics. I swear I am. I will get those done eventually. But until then, thank you very much for joining. I'll see you next week. Actually, let me talk about my guest next week. My next guest next week is AJ Taylor of UIUC, University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign. He is also a food science major, PhD actually, going for his PhD, has a giant research project going on in chocolate, and we talk a lot about chocolate next week. I love it. It's good stuff. I hope you're there. Once again, thank you very much for joining me. Have a good morning.